Welcome to Go For It podcast I think this is number 9. I hope that's right. And with us today is Espree Devora. She's the producer.
Hello.
Hello. She's the producer and host of WeAreLATech, Hello Customer, and the Women in Tech podcast. All of them have been featured by Apple as noteworthy to listen to. She's given talks on entrepreneurship and podcasting to many organizations, including USC Business School, CBS, South by Southwest, Georgetown MBA and Pepperdine, all kinds of amazing things. Her podcast was featured in Harper's Bazaar as the top 10 podcasts to listen to in 2019. Clearly, she's awesome. Podcasting is really popular right now, but Espree is an OG of the podcasting world. Back in, I'd say, around 2013, that's when podcasting really started to take off. And her first podcast goes back to 2014. It's a pleasure, joy, and honor to have a podcaster of her ilk on our Little Backwoods podcast. Thank you for joining us, Espree.
Honestly, I've told you this so many times, Josh. It's such an honor to be on your show, and I'm really excited, and I was really nervous, and so I'm just very grateful to be here and sharing this moment with you.
Thank you so much for your time, your attention, and of course mine. I'm happy to give it. You're awesome.
Thanks. You are an amazing human, not just an awesome podcaster and business person, but Josh noticed that he even brought it up before we started recording, noticed that I was overworking myself, and he actually canceled our interviews because he wanted me to make space to take care of myself. So I just want everybody to know how incredible Josh is, that he was like, I'd rather you take the time to give yourself self-care than to invest into me. And I fought him for it, and I made him put it back in the calendar. And before we started, he was still on it. He was like, have you been taking care of yourself? I was like, I got to keep the energy up right now. Let's go.
Well, I appreciate
it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, being a human is hard in our era of automatic LinkedIn responses, but I think it's really important.
I agree. And I appreciate the reminder, but I am so stoked to be here and excited to have this conversation.
All right. Well, Miss Espree, I want to get into your journey into starting a podcast, but I kind of want to go all the way, or not all the way back, but as far back as we can.
Sure.
You were an entrepreneur before doing a podcast. Can you talk about that transition into becoming an entrepreneur?
So there was no transition, really. I feel like I was born an entrepreneur. I've had entrepreneurial thoughts ever since I was a little girl walking into Westwood Village with my father. And he got me my first video camera when I was in 6th grade. It was a really big deal, and quite an incredible gift from a middle class family that, it's like a video camera wasn't a thing you just give a 6th grader. And I think now it's probably normal with everybody with their cell phones, but it was really, really cool. And I took that opportunity and fell in love with media creation. And so I feel like I've been in the media space and the entrepreneurial space, at least in a head space, since I was a little girl. And it's evolved into being a founder of a company, specifically in the tech world, and a podcaster celebrating tech lifestyle and culture. And so all of my podcasts focus on the stories of, women in tech, is celebrating women in tech around the world. So listeners walk away feeling, if she could do it, so can I. We Are Los Angeles Tech, We Are LA Tech is about spotlighting LA tech companies and talent so listeners could quickly immerse themselves into the Los Angeles tech culture. Hello Customer is sharing the story of large brands like Levi's and Zappos on how they deliver extraordinary customer experience. I'm all about sharing that story of business and culture, and utilizing my podcast to elevate others. And the source of that is because being an entrepreneur, that was an incredibly difficult journey. It's still a difficult journey. And so I utilize podcasting as a hope that maybe I could, lessen someone's strife just a little bit by connecting them to resources they wouldn't have access to otherwise.
That's awesome. So I definitely went into business for myself for the first time this year in January.
Congrats. And
Thank you.
delusional.
What's that?
Congrats and delusional.
Right. Yes, it's yeah, it requires an exceptional amount of self-belief. Like, and I've started a new phrase that I've been telling people. I tell people now that, dude, I actually believe the BS that I spew. Like, that I'm always like on the motivational stuff, and I actually really believe that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
law of attraction and all that stuff.
No, it's good. I think we should all do our best to stay focused on abundance and positivity as often as possible. There's a book that really inspired me when I was a little girl that I read, Demian by Herman Hesse. And it says, if you hate something in your, like pretty much like if you're talking poorly about someone else, it's just an indicator that you don't like something about yourself. And so I think it's human that we have judgments and we try to compare and assess or bring others down sometimes. I think sometimes that's like a natural default just in human nature, maybe from a protective caveman place of like, need to make sure we can survive, But I think it's important to, at least for me, I do my best to catch my ego immediately and remember that my core values focus on collaboration, on unifying people. And these are core values that are very important to me that I live day to day with intention. And so if I ever feel that moment, like I recently actually had, you could call it competitor, whatever you would call it. And I was like, how can I help? You know what I mean? Like, because
Wow.
if my core value is collaboration, why am I going to act from a place of scarcity?
That's
And
right.
then in making that choice, it actually led to other opportunities that I would have never been able to know were around the corner. And it was all because I asked, how can I help? Let's collaborate, rather than you copied me to a T. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned starting business. We both discussed how difficult it is. Like, what advice would you, so you're far removed from getting started as an entrepreneur. Like, what advice would you have for somebody who's trying to start a business and go into entrepreneurship?
So I think every day is a new opportunity to become an entrepreneur again. Even if you've been an entrepreneur your whole life, it's always a journey. There's so many different kind of examples of people who haven't made it. Their companies have collapsed. Unfortunately, I don't remember who said it. I just heard it last week, but somebody was telling me that it's either they only invest in or they only hire people who have had huge failures because they know what it's about and how to overcome them. And I thought that was so interesting, right? Because we're always trying to dodge and avoid the failure, but a lot of people really value the experience behind failure. And there's so much that comes with the mindset and resilience that you need to be an entrepreneur. So even though like I'm far removed from day one, I'm not far removed from making every day one. And there's just so many ways that I continue to want and need to improve, as well as we all want and need to improve, I would think, as founders, as entrepreneurs. So the best advice I would give is a few things. Your intuition is your oracle. Creating my companies when I was a teenager, I thought, what could I know? But I actually knew more than I believed that I knew because my intuition knew. So your intuition is your oracle. Follow up, follow up, follow up. I happen to be the type of person that doesn't place value on status. Like I place value on human character and integrity, but a lot of society places value on status. Like, who are you? And I'll talk to you based on who you are. You don't know who that person who has no name is going to be in the future. Now, that's not why I talk to people, but I'll tell you, after being years in business for years, when I connected with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook on the grass on a lawn, that's wild. He wasn't
Wow.
always like untouchable. You know what I mean? And so there's so many people in this world that you wouldn't think like people are, what's it called? They're sleeping on, because they're putting too much emphasis on like, what can you do for me? I always joke that I'm a Pisces, so it's not how I operate. I'm kind of like a world saver. But after years of just being who I am, I see, I'm like, whoa, I cannot believe I know so-and-so. But the only reason I know these people is because I just see people as humans. And if you have, I'm just allergic to assholes. Other than that, like I want to embrace and celebrate as many kind-hearted people as possible. So Don't vet people before in that way, because it's just gross, but just please don't. And I know it's part of a business culture, but it's so gross. Okay. And then the other thing is like follow up. So when you're not video, make sure to follow up with everybody. And I know it's hard to follow up, so put follow-up systems in place. And then that would be my third thing, is I would revisit creating workflows and operations. As creatives, as executors, ambitious people, we're like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. I mean, my tagline is the girl who gets it done, right? But without having the proper workflows in place, we're getting it done in a messy way. And like one of the important things that I believe I've learned about being a manager within my own company is I try to do my best to place blame on workflows rather than people. So let's say something goes wrong in my company, rather than blaming the person because the thing didn't get done, first I want to assess, was there a glitch, a bump in our workflow that needs to be improved? Because more times than not, it's not the person, it's the system that's broken. And if you've totally, fully looked over your system and your workflow and it's completely intact, and then you've also assessed if the person that you put in a specific position is in the right seat. Like if you put a marketer in like the chemist role, like that's not going to work, and you can't put the chemist in the marketer role, right? So make sure the person's in the right seat. So if the person's in the right seat and there's not a glitch in the system, well, then maybe it's the wrong hire, right? But don't be so quick to blame things as a manager on your beloved team. And I put a lot of value in that word team. And I think the last thing, Josh, that I'll share is I remember when I wanted to do business with Google and I was on Google campus and it was massive. It was just so big. And I remember thinking, man, 2 dudes have so much responsibility. So to really think about, what is the lifestyle of the company you want to build? And I think that word lifestyle business has kind of been given a bad rap. Usually lifestyle business equates to a blogger, but I don't mean it like that. I mean, literally, how big of a team do you want? What kind of freedom do you want? Because that will dictate to have investors, to not have investors, to have over 3 people on your staff or 7 people on your staff or 100 people on your staff. Like it will dictate how much time you actually have with your family, how much liability you'll have, there's just so many things. So think about the lifestyle that you want to have and build your company around that dream lifestyle. And not only for you, but for your team. So I'm constantly thinking about my team and what are their dreams so that as we grow this thing together, that we're all winning.
That response was so well thought through, well articulated.
Thank you.
Like, because you've probably been asked it so many times. Like, when is the book coming? Like that,
oh my
that
gosh.
was awesome.
You and my mentor both. I've actually been writing a book for 2 or 3 years, and my mentor is just like rolling his eyes at me that it's not done yet. Yeah. Speaking of getting things done, that is one thing I've not gotten done. I think that's another thing I'll just say, since I'm rambling a little, is like there's no better time than right this second. Everybody says, like, I spoke to an amazing entrepreneur earlier today who was like, okay, I'll think it over. I'm like, no. Don't think it over. Just do. I spoke to this awesome PR person. I'm going to keep his name private just in case. But I was speaking to him the other day and I said the same thing. Don't just take action and see what works. And then within hours, he wrote me and he's like, I did it and I made a sale. And I'm like, yes to that. You know what I mean? Like all we have as entrepreneurs is like a wealth of experiments for us to execute on. And we can't dictate what experience will work or won't work. There is no perfect idea. There's only authenticity and experiments. So as long as you're leading from a place of authenticity and you're executing on as many experiments as your time allows consistently and evaluating the performance of those experiments, that's all you could ask for. You can't control the outcome of the journey.
Espree, I'm listening to how you, once again, like your clarity of expression of your thoughts it's really inspiring.
Wow, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, you're welcome. The reason why I mentioned that is because most people, they like, so I know you do have an advantage. Like when you're on podcasts like this, you do get the same questions, but like do you have like a secret? Like most people cannot, most people are cloudy. Like
Yeah.
they're either, you're not doing any ums or ahs. Like it's almost like
Oh,
you've
that's
written out
trippy.
what you're going to say in advance. Like,
Oh no,
where does this come from? This
I
is
definitely say
excellent.
like way too much. I definitely request of my editors to remove how many times I say like. I'm a California girl through and through. um, it's funny. I don't think I've repeated these things in advance. You've asked different questions. So I haven't, but I think about this a lot.
Okay.
So I'm when I'm interviewed, I'm usually interviewed on how do you build community and how do you podcast, or maybe it's my life experience as a founder, but those are usually written. I really speak from the heart, and I think about it a lot. It's really hard. It's really hard, and I've experienced immense pain. I've had a very depleting journey being an entrepreneur, and I think on the surface, it may seem that I've had a charm journey, but I just haven't. I haven't had a charm journey, which is fine. It just is what it is. And so I've chosen to overcome so much pain, so have so much resilience it's just undeniable now, whether I want to see it or not. Like I'm literally a survivor. Like I mean, and survivor, I mean, both a survivor in my business and more importantly, a survivor in my personal life. Like I survive, I'm resilient. I lead life with compassion. I constantly work on myself. I go to therapy. So I think a combination of just a lot of thought behind why I do what I do and who I want to be and how I want to show up and I mean, last night, okay, for example, we all gain like the pandemic, 15 or 50, and I'm like, I'm just not willing to end my year like with a body fat percentage that is way more than I've had in the past. I'm just not willing to. I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, what can I do? Well, I know my sleep schedule, as you and I both know, is totally off. And so waking up early like I used to pre-pandemic at 6 a.m. is probably not going to fly right now. So what can I do? And there's a site. I have an accountability coach. His name's Rob. He's amazing. Through a site called Coach Me. It's coach.me. I could anybody listening, I could completely recommend you to Rob. I'll send you his link. He's so dope. Anyway, he's been my accountability coach for quite a while, but he's not like a fitness coach. So I went back to Coach Me. I looked up fitness. I found the person with the largest reviews, and I was like, just do it. I just signed up. It's really inexpensive. And she chats with me, keeps me accountable. So today already, right, day one, I signed up for this last night. She's like, I love that you know exactly what you want. She's like, go do this today. And already I felt like so much resistance. I can't, I'm tired. I got so many things to do. I can't like leave the house to go work out. Excuse. But now I have someone paying attention. She's like, all right, how are we going to make this so this isn't what's the narrative that's happening tomorrow? She's like, tonight, put out your workout clothes, put out your jump rope, and here's the workout you're doing. It takes 24 minutes. You can do it, and you're going to do it before any of your meetings. And now I have this like intention, right? I have this person monitoring me. I don't want to go back to the person and be like, I didn't do it again. And we have a plan, like a success plan. And now I know, okay, my first meeting's at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So I'm going to make sure that I work out by 7 a.m., which means I have to get up at 6:45, which makes sure, let me prioritize going to sleep at an hour that, and so essentially, like, we're all able to create our lives, to architect our lives. It's just a matter of living our lives with intention and being really clear about what we want and not making excuses. And when we are making excuses, because that's human, like putting up, like, sourcing our guards, our protective barrier. Like I went to coach.me. You know what because I knew it were so inexpensive. It's $80 a month for somebody to message me every single day. Like, amazing, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Like,
that's great.
And so I think that's where it's from, is that I live a very purposeful life with intention. Yeah.
One day I want to be able to communicate like you.
Such a compliment. Thank you so much.
So you mentioned entrepreneurship being a depleting journey. Like, so you started when you were a teenager, from what you were saying earlier. Why are you still going? Like, I remember when I was speaking to you a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and you were telling me, oh yeah, I'm going to you were telling me where you could fit me in on your schedule, and it sounded like absolute madness to me. Like you
Yeah,
just have so much going on, and if it's a depleting journey, why are you still on the journey?
because it's who I am. Like it's in my cells. Like I am an entrepreneur. Like it's legit who I am. It's who I've been since I was born. There's no way I would have entrepreneurial thoughts as a 4-year-old girl walking into Westwood Village with my dad. I remember looking in the empty office buildings, and I would share with my dad the kind of like t-shirt shops that I think should be in these empty buildings. Like who thinks like that? Like I was such a weird kid, you know? Like
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just who I am. Like I've actually tried not to be an entrepreneur, and I remember it was real weird. I would cry. Like I got this contract job, and I would sit in my car in between, and I would just cry, and I didn't know why I was crying. It was so bizarre. I'm like, am I hungry? Like what is going on? Like why am I crying so much? And later it's because I was living a life that wasn't in alignment with me.
Right.
I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And it was like my soul was crying. That's why I didn't mentally understand what was going on, because it wasn't about my head. My headspace was like, being an entrepreneur is insane. Go get a normal, stable life. And so I did. And then I was just crying weirdly with no thoughts in my brain. It wasn't like I was sad. It was a great job. So I'm like, what is going on with me? And I just want to kind of put a disclaimer on that, though. I think our life is about feeling a fulfilled life, and that could look a lot. So I don't know who villainized the 9 to 5, because that's silly. I have a girlfriend who works at Disney. It's her dream job. It's the best thing ever for her. I don't, if you're a fisherman, that's fine. It's about enjoying the life you're living and not being resentful that you're living a life you don't actually want to be living.
Right. It's deep. So you mentioned about living an authentic life, but you live in LA, right? Like there's that whole reputation of LA being about social climbing and people being
God,
fake.
it drives me
How
crazy.
how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I know it's getting dark outside earlier now. Um, yeah, those people annoy me.
How long have you been out there?
I'm born and raised LA.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. I us locals
Why
are
are you so
nice
cool?
people.
How? How does that
All
make
of
sense?
us locals are really nice people. We're all normal.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I
That
would
makes
like the transients to set a better like example of how cool people can be.
Well, so you do a lot of coaching for new podcasters. I met you on an app. I mean, is it? I think it's fine if we shout out the app, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse is great. So it's like this social network. I mean, you tell what it is. You're actually the face of the application.
Yeah, which is crazy. I am the face on the app icon. It's an audio social network to form meaningful connection. I kind of simulate, it's like a simulated conference, I feel like, where at a conference you have your panel sessions, and then you have your lobby con to network, and then you run into somebody in the hotel bar, and then you stop in a jazz pub. You know what I mean? It's just like it's all these experiences inside this app, and they're all audio only. And I like that you have, just your photo. There's no animation. There's no, it's just audio. It's like a world of connective audio. And yeah, I really love it. Don't know how it's going to grow or where it's going to go. We shall see. Right now it's probably around 100,000 users or less, but it's been exciting to watch. And yes, I am the iconic face.
Yeah, that's
Just a trip.
legitimately iconic. The icon.
Yeah, it's a trip. And I was telling my friend Danny, I was sharing with her I think right the day it happened or before it happened, I don't even know, but I'm glad I shared it with her. It was really difficult for me to step into being big. It feels a lot safer to be small. Like when you're small, I'm going to say this in a really like PC way on purpose, because like I said, I don't think it's good to like badmouth. But like there was a negative thing that happened the day I became the icon, and my name
Okay.
was in it, like meaning someone didn't like that I was the icon.
Right.
And that's
Oh,
exactly
that day?
what's,
You're talking about recent history,
oh
Clubhouse.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
or
Okay.
maybe they just wanted attention,
Right.
and maybe they didn't even like, the point is it didn't feel good. And that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid of hate. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of, oh, she thinks that, she's better than us, when I'm literally just existing. It's just somebody chose to make me a face of something. Like, I'm still me. I haven't done anything to anybody, and I think it's really it's really scary to be big and to step into your power, and to like walk out of being small and just build more resilience, have more self-confidence. I think that's for me, that's scary and tough and overwhelming. And so, as excited and incredible an opportunity as this is to be the face of a very influential app, it's also terrifying and thought-provoking. And I'm doing my best to do it with grace,
Right.
whatever that means, and to show compassion and love. And yeah, and luckily I've only had like a couple things where I'm like, I could tell that I wasn't wanted, but I need to focus on all the people that are stoked. And that's my growth right now. My growth is about focusing on the abundance and not giving energy to things that don't serve me or my purpose. And I'm very clear on what my purpose is. I'm very proud of my purpose, to unify people in a meaningful way, to elevate others. And like, so if somebody has a moment, for whatever reason they may have a moment, like, that's not part of that's not going to help others. Like, what's going to help others is that I become more resilient and that I stay focused and intentional.
Right. Well, on the subject of going from small to being big, like, I think so. We kind of have somewhat of, like, I know you a little bit because of the fact that I was listening to you on Clubhouse, and I don't know, like, the cool thing about Clubhouse is like you kind of feel like you know people.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
You form IRL friends. It's cool.
yeah. It's
I
like,
just
so
met
it's
some
been, yeah.
guys. Is it yes? I think yes. Yeah, yesterday morning. It was so fun.
What was going on yesterday morning?
Oh, they flew in from Atlanta to Los Angeles to see some of their other friends, and then we got together for coffee. And it was my first time meeting Clubhouse friends, and it was awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well, if I'm honest, Espree, I know you're not gonna like what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
bring it.
You're Showtime. You're big time. The fact that you're on the Go For It podcast with me, like, it's probably a net negative in terms of some time that you could spend doing something else. Like, if we're honest, you're big time. I'm a nobody. Like, what does that transition look like? Like, you probably have to be more, what's the word for it? Discerning about, like, impact, because,
Okay,
this is
one,
your
I
baby
appreciate how
podcast.
I appreciate how protective you are. As I mentioned, you see, you guys, that, like, I mentioned it at the beginning of the interview too, you are so protective of my time and my spiritual energy, and I really appreciate that. You're right. I don't like you calling yourself small. You're spot on. And, like, look, are you really small, or are you on
Yes.
your path?
I'm on my path. Yes, that's true.
And, like, if you're on your path, you're not actually small.
Steve. All right. Well, but what about, but you're not small. You're clearly not small. Why, like,
Like, why is it positioned in a way where I am more important than you are?
what has to do with, I guess, what your goals are, I guess. I guess that's what
To
it boils down to. Like,
elevate people who deserve to be elevated. And
okay.
the word deserve means that they're kind-hearted people who want to put good into the world, and they lead life with integrity.
Okay.
Are
Well,
you a kind-hearted person with integrity?
Yes, I am actually.
Well, it looks like I'm doing my job.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
No, truly though, I think this is important. Like, I remember when I was building my sports company, and there was this woman on Donnie Deutsch's show on like CNBC, some big network, right? Inaccessible. Her name's Marlise Cast, and she's a surfer and she's a journalist, and she was amazing. I actually should reach out to her, say hello. She was amazing. I was like awestruck, right? I sent her a cold email. Remember, she's on like a huge TV show, and I'm this little girl with a startup, and like close to no money. I hadn't raised money at that point, you know? And I reached out to her. I sent some email. I actually would love to like look it up to see what I sent, but I sent some email that was really authentic and pretty much like, you may not even see this, but like, you're amazing. You really inspired me. And I would love if you would write, you know, with my company. And she got back to me, and she ended up being my writer for years.
Being your what?
My writer for my sports company.
Wow.
WRITER. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
For my sports company, and she would write, you know, on different action sports pieces. So the point is, always take the leap. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Somebody won't respond. Oh, well, like somebody didn't respond, but always take the leap.
But that's the reason why this podcast exists, Espree. I'm so glad you said that. The reason why this podcast exists, the reason why it's called the Go For It podcast, is so many people, like Drake said it best, everybody dies, but not everybody lives. Like,
yeah.
I talked about it in my first podcast. The name of my first podcast was Surviving Our First Year in Business. It was me and my friend Mark Lee, and I was talking about being broke multiple times this year, but feeling very fulfilled and very happy, despite being in a very like literally, I called up my dad. I was like, Dad, like I'm probably moving home this next week if this deal doesn't land. So the deal ended up landing. Now I've got this office. I was working out of my house. It's freaking awesome.
See, you're a big deal.
No, this is a very small office, but you know, I'm being humble, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I do kind of have delusions of grandeur. I do think that I'm awesome, if I'm honest, and I do think that I am capable of greatness, and that's just a fact. So I'm being humble, but like, there's also that too.
Wait, can I call you? I'm going to turn on the light behind me. Hold on.
Okay.
One second. Can I call you out though? Because like before you said, I'm small, why make time, right? And now you're like, I'm awesome. Can you just pick the second one?
Well, that's the thing. I'm talking about perception, right? The perception is, so I literally just got an email from a little podcasting service that I use. Oh, you had 200 viewers. Of course, to me, this is awesome.
Oh, who do you use, by the way?
I use Buzzsprout.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah. Have you heard of them?
Yes. But I haven't used them, but yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So I just got that email. 200 people have downloaded my podcast or whatever, which is awesome.
You know, 135 people is the first sign of success. So you're already past the first sign of success.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The average is 135 people if you're consistent and successful at the beginning stages.
Wow. Okay.
And it's very hard to get to 135 people.
Well, I'll take it.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, okay. So let's talk about that, right? So me being small versus me being big. So when I say I'm small time, I'm a nobody, that's not how I feel about myself. I think
then why say it?
Because I'm just verbalizing the perception.
Whose perception?
Possibly yours, right? Like you're.
But is it
the Clubhouse app?
But wait, was it? But is it my perception?
Well, okay, it's not. But I'm just saying, like someone in your seat, right? Like say, like Zuckerberg, right? Mark Zuckerberg. Am I going to be talking to Mark Zuckerberg anytime soon? Is that worth his time? Like, who am I?
Why not?
Why am I worthy of his time in his mind?
Decide why you are.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not, this is not a no. You're talking to you're barking at the wrong tree if you're like, oh, okay. You sound like you're unconfident. You should be more confident. That's not the issue here.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, I don't even know why we're even talking about this. It's more.
I got him blushing, you guys. I got him blushing. I win. Checkmate.
Do I think the reality is different than the perception? Yes. Do I think I'm great? Yes. But the
I think
perception is, yeah.
honestly, and I think this is very important for everybody to hear. I think perception is created based on confidence. So as long as you have confidence, like there was a study done a long time ago with men, if you went to a job interview and a man with jeans and a t-shirt versus a man with a suit, even if the man with the jeans and the t-shirt was more experienced, typically the one that was wearing the suit, because he presented himself in a more confident light, he would get the job, right? And so I think perception is built on confidence, and confidence can be expressed in a variety of ways. And just deciding where is the mutually beneficial point to connect to people. So where is your mutually beneficial point to connect with Mark Zuckerberg? Because what if you're the person that he like desperately needs to talk to, right? Like it's not based on a follower count. It's so much bigger than that, right? Like let's take even Clubhouse right now. You have the most influential people on Clubhouse, and some of them have 50 followers because they just don't use it in that way, right? So it's not always just a follower count. And I know that's how society likes to kind of like position it. How many stories have you read with people with like a bazillion followers who tried to sell a t-shirt and couldn't even sell one, right? Because like everything is about perception, but at the stem of it, you need to know what your purpose is and who your audience is and what is your flow within your company, your funnel, so that you're building a sustainable organization. Like what are the core pieces of you that make you a valuable person? Like all these things, like it's not just based on like a social media account or anything. Like I remember before the WeAreLATech podcast ever existed, I don't know if you're familiar with Phil's Coffee, but like Phil's Coffee is this like big deal in San Francisco, and they just opened an LA thing. And I went into the new LA store. It happened that Phil was there, and I was like, Phil of Phil's.
Oh, okay,
And
wow.
I was just like, will you be my first guest on my new podcast? And this was like 2013. There were podcasting was not a thing then. It was not cool. It's not what it is today. I could get into the history of podcasting, but that will bore you, so I won't. But like, it didn't become a thing till later on. So Phil, this iconic guy with this iconic coffee shop that was like the VC's like dream coffee shop, like he agreed to be on my show. So it's like, these are the moments, like that you just want to capture. You just want to believe what you have, the mission behind it. I always say sell the mission, not the listens.
There you go. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like that was so good.
Gosh, my ego is going to be built up by the time this podcast is done.
Yeah, I'm very easy to give compliments. I think it's really cool. It's once again, listening to you inspires me to become a better communicator, because I see the difference between me and you, and it's like, man, like how much more could you help people if you could communicate like Espree? All right, so anyway, let me stop gassing you up.
No, I listen, my love languages are affirmations and acts of service, so I appreciate it.
All right.
My love language should also be sleep, but which is what you keep reminding me of.
Okay, well, let's talk about, let's transition and let's talk about like how I actually found you and discovered you. I discovered you. There was a room on Clubhouse. You do a lot of content about new podcasters, getting people involved into the podcasting world. I heard you on there. It was just off the cuff. You just gave this amazing advice: the 4 P's and the 2 M&Ms.
Well, the 3 P's and the M&Ms. Yeah. I did edit the doc.
Oh, okay. Oh, snap. Okay, it's the 3 P's and 2. So purpose, production. What was the other one?
Okay, you ready? Purpose, process, production, marketing, monetization, and in that order. Like right. You need to start with your purpose, and then I call it forming the triangle of purpose. So the purpose for you, the purpose of the listener, and the purpose for the guest. And this is assuming you're creating a podcast for your brand or something, a business related podcast, because there's so many different types of podcasts, from scripted podcasts, entertainment podcasts. So this is just like a business podcast. So purpose, process, production, marketing, monetization. And within purpose, it's the triangle of purpose. What's in it for you, what's in it for your guest, and what's in it for the listener. And for you, there's a part A and a part B. What's in it for you holistically and what's in it for you from a sustainable point. Because there's a thing in podcasting called pod fade, where after 7 episodes, people typically stop podcasting because they aren't lucky enough to have the 200 listens that you have now, right? And so if you think about that stuff first, that's what's going to keep you motivated and keep your engine fueled to keep you going. Like when I do 20 women in tech interviews in a day and I'm cross-eyed, exhausted, and my bones hurt, like I'm doing it for a very specific purpose. And that purpose is what fuels me to push forward to make sure that I'm able to elevate yet one more woman in tech, right? And so purpose, process, production, marketing, monetization. You don't want to get to production. Usually they start with production. They're like, what mic should I get? But how can you know what mic you need unless you know what purpose you have and then what process you're applying to it? So for example, when I created my Women in Tech podcast, that's a travel show that I use in H1 Zoom. But when I have my WeAreLATech podcast, that's an in-studio show where I use an H6. When I do my Brag podcast, that's a remote show, right? So everything is produced in a different way to match the purpose. And then, process talks more about the resources and the different things that you have available to you, from software to teams and budgets, to know what kind of production equipment you need for how you want to produce your show. And then you can't market or monetize it until you know all those things anyway, because how are you going to market something if you don't know who your target audience is and who will relate and who will benefit the most? And how are you going to monetize it and reach out and create brand partnerships if you don't know the core quality of the content, the art that you're creating?
Right.
Yeah. And that was an insanely condensed version of the 3 Ps and the M&Ms. But that is, I actually created that at a talk in Arizona. I was giving a talk and I was explaining podcasting. And I remember when I gave that talk, I'm like, and I wrote it down. I'm like, that's it. That's the formula. I said it by accident. It was after my speech. I was doing a little round table circle and people were like asking me more questions. And I was like, it's the 3 Ps and then the M&Ms. I'm like, catchy.
Well, Espree, there's somebody who's listening to this podcast who is listening to you and they're on the fence. They're, like you said, the reason why I didn't stop being an entrepreneur is because it's who I am. Like there's somebody who's there internally, but they have not taken action. Like, what would you say to that person?
Don't worry about fear. Like fear is going to be there. Let it be your friend. Fear is just there to protect you. We're all afraid. Even the biggest of the biggest that seem like they're not afraid, they're probably afraid. So I hear a lot of speakers say, don't be afraid. Come on. Like we're human. We're going to freak out, it's fine. But just don't let fear dictate what you do, right? You dictate what you do. So you say, thank you, fear. I appreciate you wanting to protect me. I got this one. And then you just start performing a list of experiments and you just see what works and understand you don't know what is going to, we cannot control what is going to work, what's not going to work, when serendipity is going to happen. I've been an entrepreneur a very, very long time. For when I joined Clubhouse, I did not know I was going to be the face of Clubhouse, right? But I had a gut feeling that I should invest my time in this thing. And it was for a multitude of reasons, but really it was a gut feeling that let me do this thing. And part of it, I was like, oh, I could become better at communicating podcasting education. There were a lot of things, right? But in end, that gut feeling led to me being the face of an app. It was really funny because Clubhouse liked a tweet that I did. They liked a tweet today that I did a few weeks ago. And the tweet, it's crazy. I was responding. Okay, so I was checking out the Clubhouse Twitter, and there's Erica Batista was the girl before me, and I responded to a tweet about her that said she's the face of the app, and I wrote, "Man, this is so cool. I wish all companies would celebrate their community this way."
Right.
This is I had no idea. I don't even know if they knew I would be the face of it, but the energy was so in alignment, right? So just do you, go with your gut. And be reasonable. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, Jason Fried, what I mean by reasonable is he has a very successful company called Basecamp. It used to be called 37 Signals. He had an agency before he became a software company owner. And he did not quit his agency until his company made more than his agency work. So you don't need to go balls out, quit your job. I'm an entrepreneur now. No, like, do it in a way that's right for you. If you want to take, I'm a high risk taker. If you want to take the risk, take the risk. If you want to keep the job built on the side, then be intentional, build it like 2 hours every day, whatever you need to do. Sometimes it's better to have less time because you make smarter decisions because you don't have as much of the excess time to be working with, right? So create your own journey. Don't try to mimic someone else's story. Create your own story. Our own stories are magic. Like when I first started, I wanted to be like Richard Branson. I wanted to be like Tim Ferriss, right? Like, no, I want to be me. I want my journey. And I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I know I'm like kicking ass along the way, you know? And on the hard days, which are so many, you guys, so many, like I'm building up resilience. I'm building up so many things that I can't possibly understand until later why I had to build these things. But all that pain that I've gone through, that pain is what, like every time Josh is like, wow, how can you communicate this? Because I've been through such a monstrosity of pain. I've had to like think about it a lot to survive to persevere, you know. It's not easy living a life on your own terms. It's just not. And that's okay.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. It's not easy living a life on your own terms because most people, that's what they're, leave the rat race, work from home. So what does that mean? Because that is something I've never heard anyone say. Why is it hard to live life on your own terms?
So somebody told me the story once, and it's unfortunate, but it was really interesting. I think it was crabs. I can't remember. It's some animal. You put them in a bucket, and I'm pretty sure it was crabs or like a pot. And if one tries to crawl out, the rest will pull it back down. And I think that that's a really good representation, unfortunately, of society. Like I feel this is going to be a funny statement. But I've always felt a lot of compassion for celebrities because they're literally zoo animals. And it's just not nice. It's not fair. It's not nice.
Right.
People want to build them up and then they want to destroy them. Like at the end of the day, these are legit human beings, right? And the way we interact with celebrities as a society and as a culture is as though they are better than us in gold. And so then they don't even know how to interact themselves. It's like, I can't imagine how hard it is to stay quote unquote normal as a celebrity when everyone's treating you like you're not normal and you're expected to stay like grounded and authentic and relatable, but yet everybody's treating you like, you know, like you're God. And then like they all want to lift you up and then they want to, it's just, I don't wish that. I mean, I don't want to be that ever, you know, it just does not sound like a good time. And so I think that we live in that way. Like, I worked with a company once and unfortunately, like I found it very bizarre. I didn't understand it at first, but a lot of people seemed to feel that I was trying to like take their job. It seems, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was just very weird. But like, little did they know, actually in my job interview, I said, I don't want those jobs. Like, so I had no intention to take anybody's job. I was just showing up. But the fundamental difference between an entrepreneur and I think an employee is an employee feels like they need to like protect their territory. And like an entrepreneur is legit trying to create a lot for a lot. And so if you're coming from a really collaborative space, even if you're not a collaborative person, because like I mentioned, collaboration is my core value, but still as an entrepreneur, even if you're a transactional person, you're still going to be creating assets that are collaborative because you need to build teams. You want to motivate your teams to do well because then your company grows, right? And so that's just not the mindset when you're thinking more singular, like self-preservation versus like team growth. And so, yeah, it's hard to live life on your own terms, because on your own terms is a very foreign place for others, and they can't put you in a box, so they don't know if they feel safe. Like I've said in the past that I've been very insecure about how passionate I am because I feel misunderstood. It's like, oh, there's no way she could actually care. There's no way that it's my own perception. Like maybe that's not true, but it's my own insecurity in the past of like, man, like I feel like an alien because all I want to do is love, but that's so foreign. So I'm like scrutinized, you know, or, but that could just be my own, that's the point, that even getting past our own insecurities, our own self-perceptions, like all of it is, it's just very, as my friend Schwan would say, uncomfy, like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I feel that my career and my life, I'm going to share something really personal. I don't know why, but I'm going to do it anyway. Maybe there's someone listening and I just have a gut feeling. And so whoever you are, that one person that's listening right now, that this is really going to help, this is for you. Like yesterday I was sharing how excited I was with my girlfriend, Danny, or I was sharing a lot of emotions, excitement. And I was also, to be really candid, I was crying yesterday as well, because like it was so much emotion. And Danny is like, this is like your time. Maybe it's all the pain you've had stored up in your body and it just needs to be released. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, why do I feel this like fog of sadness? Like when so much good is happening. She's like, because you have so much emotion, maybe it just needs to be released. And then I just respond, fuck, I just really miss my dad. My dad and I are estranged and he raised me. Like,
Oh, wow.
Like we're on a massive journey, and you'll never, the only thing that you could have, the only thing that's real, it's not status, it's not money. Yes, we need these things to survive and like create this life and be able to afford where we live and have food in our mouths that we're also grateful to have if we have that, right? But like what actually like matters at the core are two things. It's inner peace, which you'll hear about in Buddhism and things like that. It's inner peace, which is like self-love and not egotistical, like just not hating on yourself. And who are the people who are going to be around you when you die, that love you in your worst moments, you know? So like the fancy magazines or the LA cars or like status or jealousy over pictures or whatever everyone's caught up in. Do you have inner peace? And do you have solid people in your life who truly and utterly just like love you no matter what and will be there when you die? Like, so like all this other stuff, like it's just one massive journey, and it's really, and yeah. And sometimes, you know, it feels uncomfy, you know, like because there's all this stuff coming. But as long as, for me, as long as I stay focused, do I feel inner peace? And am I surrounding myself by people that like truly love me in my worst? Like Danny, that I was able to call Danny. Here I am, the face of this, like, which it, like in full ownership is probably the most influential app of 2020, right?
Wow.
Like I'm the face of this app with the biggest thought leaders, which is a really big deal. I feel like I'm standing at the door of, I feel like I've been standing at the door of abundance for my entire career, and I was never allowed to walk through. And I feel like I'm currently walking through that door, and it's crazy. Like it's so exciting. And last night I'm talking to Danny and I'm like, Danny, I just feel like this fog of sadness is like lurking and I don't get it. And it's freaking me out. And I wanted to call you before it caught up with me. And she's like, first of all, good on you for noticing it. And like, I'm here for you. And I don't need to be perfect for Danny. I don't need to feel like only stoked because I'm like, have this really amazing thing right now. I can just be, and she's going to love me as I am, just being, and she's not going to judge me, and she's going to help carry me through it. And we're going to work it out. And we worked it out. Like she helped me like see like, yeah, I probably do have a lot of trapped energy. That's been a lot of resilience for a lot of years. And I probably do need to release it. And it is really weird when I've, you know, been a community builder my entire career. And I have to just, overall, it is pretty like a thankless industry, just being real, but I do it for reasons very personal to me, right? And then all of a sudden I'm being honored and all these people are giving me all these compliments and all these things. And I'm just like, I'm not used to this. And she's like, you don't have to be in the reality that you were in before. It's okay to like let it go now. But just to have a friend like allow me to show up my most authentic self and not get caught up in like all this stuff. So I know I'm saying a lot of things from a lot of angles, but like, yeah, you know, like that was like a really real moment. And in that moment that I've achieved so much, I still don't have my father, and that causes me a lot of pain, you know? So it's just like my father who gave me that video camera, who inspired me to be in tech, who showed me the path, the world of entrepreneurship and of computers, and who was like my best friend growing up, you know?
You got me leaking.
Oh, sorry.
No,
like,
no, it's not sorry. It's no, I'm feeling this. Yeah.
So like we're all on a journey. You're so sweet. We're all on a journey, and like inner peace and true love, and not romantic, just like true love, you know, like that's what matters. And so that's where I check in. That's why when you say, Espree, like I'm canceling everything because I want you to take care of yourself, I really do hear you. And like I may make different decisions from time to time because like I'm on an ambitious like couple months, you know, but like I hear you, and I think what you're saying is really important. And when I see myself, you know, not choosing like not to work out because I'm so busy in the hustle grind that I can't stand those words, you know, like am I not prioritizing my body, like my body that I'm with my whole life that will carry me, my mind that like will carry me? Like, why am I not prioritizing my body and my mind? What's that about? What am I chasing? You know? And so, yeah. And that all equates back to inner peace. So I think the word happiness, like everybody's like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I want to experience inner peace more often than not. I don't believe happiness is a state that you achieve and stay there forever. I used to think it was that, so I'd be really disappointed pretty often. Now I think happiness is literally just feeling ease inside of me. And I don't really align with the word happiness, because I think sometimes I'm going to feel happy or joyous or whatever it is. And then sometimes I'm going to feel bad. But as long as through all of that, I love myself, which is something that I hope that I consistently do. So when I like make my next worst decision, or when somebody doesn't like me, or like if whatever, or like I had a call that I wish went better, or whatever negative, you know, I ate the pint of ice cream, like whatever negative, right? Like, as long as I can be like, you know, Espree, you did that and it's okay. You'll make a new decision. At your core, you are a person that fundamentally loves people. You do the best you can do. You do your best to show up in your best way possible. So who you are fundamentally, rock solid. So let's just like learn from this, you know, ill experience, and let's make new choices next time. But no need to hate on yourself, because that's the part that we don't, that hate, that self-hatred that seemed to have become my life companion for a while. Like, I want to say to her, thank you for like being there. I know you were there to protect me, keep me safe, but I'm good now. Like, I want to step into abundance, to light, to love. And I no longer want to experience you, you know, like, just like, that's what I want for myself. That's a successful life. Because like, think about Kodak, right? Huge company, gone. Like, there's just, you can't control your destiny as an entrepreneur. You could only show up the best you can show up for yourself and for your loved ones every single day. That's what you can control, how you show up. You cannot control the outcome ever. But I know we want to. I know I've been in massive pain wishing I could control the outcome, and thinking I was like a massive loser that I didn't get the outcome that I wanted to get. but I'm not. I'm a resilient, powerful, loving, kind friend, daughter, coworker. Like, I'm a lot of things, and I'm not a loser. And I'm tired of thinking myself as that, but I spent a lot of my life thinking of myself that way. My dad, like, not being part of my life, that's the biggest, like, loser juju you can get. Like, if my father, who I was like best friends, I was a daddy's girl, if he like walked away from me, I must not be someone who is worth loving. Fuck that. I don't know if it's okay to curse on your podcast, but fuck that. Like I'm totally worth loving, and I'm totally worth loving myself. I am over being broken in that way. Yeah. It's my little speech.
There's no follow-up to that. I'm literally like, so if anybody's watching this on video, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube. I look like Michael Jordan crying meme. Like, that's me right now. So yeah, I'm leaking left and right. Like, I'm visualizing myself driving into work tomorrow. I'm in this moment, and I'm visualizing myself listening to this podcast and this speech again tomorrow morning, because like that, there was so much there. Like I said, there's no follow-up to that. Like, that was raw, that was real. I'm not a believer in the phrase "your truth." I don't identify with that. I believe that there's only truth, and then there's not truth.
Right.
But yeah, that was incredible. Wow.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share.
Do we have, like, I don't know if a moment of silence is in the podcast.
I just think there's someone out there listening who really needed to know that they weren't alone.
Right.
And sometimes that person's me listening,
Right.
So right now I'm that for someone.
Right.
So thank you for letting me be a part of your journey, whoever you are.
I don't even know how, like, we move on from that. I don't think I just don't feel right asking you anything after that. Like, there's nothing to say.
Well, we could wrap it up there. It's your podcast. Whatever feels right for you. Doing this on your terms.
Yeah, I think we have to end there. I think we have to. I have other questions. Maybe, down the line, there's Go For It podcast, Espree Part 2, but.
Well, I'll make the commitment right now. You are not losing out. So no FOMO, which means fear of missing out. Like, I will commit to you that whenever you want to do a part 2, I don't care how big you perceive me to be. Like, I am stating it publicly right here. You reach out to me anytime, and I will do.
Why?
And I genuinely mean that. And the only way that wouldn't happen is if, like, you tweet me and I somehow don't see it. So follow up, because I'm being very sincere. I don't care if it's 4 years from now, 10 years from now, 2 months from now. Just make sure that you follow up. Like, remember what I said, follow up, everything's in the follow up. Sometimes, like, it's funny because sometimes, like, we take it so personal if someone doesn't get back to us. But, like, let's say it's a week. Like, my last 2 weeks have been insane, right? So if anybody wrote me in the last 2 weeks, the chances that I've seen it are very, like, low. I would have to be actively knowing, like, your messages even. I actively looked for your name to see your messages, knowing we had an ongoing communication. But so sometimes we take it so personal if somebody doesn't get back to us, but really they may have just, like, not seen it or been in a bad place. Like, how many times have you gotten a text, but you were, like, in the middle of something, or someone just called when you opened the text? So technically you saw it and it's, like, marked red, but you didn't actually see it, and by the time you got off your phone, you forgot you got the text at all, and your app closed, so it doesn't show you the so just, yeah, I'm committing. Just make sure to, like, follow up on that, and you're not missing out.
Yeah, like, I think we leave on that was a powerful moment. I think it should stand alone, and I do have to ask my final questions.
Yeah, do it.
I only have 2.
I'm okay.
I only have 2 questions that I always end with, and I really like them. What's next for you, Espree?
This right now, walking through that door and owning my power.
Right. And then
somebody sent me a text message. I think I'll read it out loud. It's an interesting text message. I haven't even like fully processed it yet. But it was interesting. I think it's a good answer to this, even though I'm pre-process stage on my own. Okay, this text message says, if I could get my phone to open. Okay, it says, it's about Oprah. I was like, wow, me and Oprah in the same sentence. Okay. Said, I have to share some thoughts with you from yesterday after this celebration like that we did.
Yeah.
I'm going to call out, it's my friend Garrett. He said, your humility is endearing and part of your winning formula, which I thought was really funny because it's not like I haven't had like some strategic plan to be endearing, but I have to sense that people are starting to look to you for more focused leadership style, which I was like, what does that mean? You know, starting with your gratitude is a perfect place, which to me didn't really like align with me because like, again, I'm not like, I'm just being me. I'm not being strategic, but like, yeah. But I sense the women followers are looking to you as an example of owning one's power, which I thought was interesting. And I think the shift required right now is acknowledging your accomplishments and power in the world. They are looking for hope and acknowledgement. And if you minimize all you've done beneath, quote unquote, not worthy, they lose that hope. Be more like Oprah, kind of.
Kind of.
I mean, can we, any of us really be Oprah's like queen? But Oprah and Badass Boz, like both of them. Oh my gosh. But I thought it was really interesting. And I think that's what's next is owning my power, celebrating my wins. What's the word? Unabashedly, unapologetically. But doing it in a way, I've always been afraid of coming off arrogant. So doing it in a way that it elevates others in tandem is really important to me. And so I think that's what's next is that headspace. But again, I still have to process this note. The parts that the wording that was like a little like suggested strategy, like I was like cringe, you know what I mean? I was like, right. I'm not like being grateful and having humility for like a strategic advantage, you know, like that was like but yeah. Anyway, my friend Garrett's very businessy, so I'm just gonna write it off and that's how he talks. But yeah,
I really like how like everything that always comes back to purpose with you. It always comes back to some like ideal that you're either pursuing or chasing after. I think that a lot of people get lost in the noise. They get lost in, like you said, either pursuing some sort of accolade that somebody is bestowing on them, some sort of chasing someone liking you or something like that. It's just, I really like how it all comes back to like self-actualization. I think that's awesome.
And it's human to feel all those sensations, you know. It's human. It's okay. Like when I first became an entrepreneur, all I wanted to be was on the cover of a magazine. Like that was, I wanted it so bad, you know. Yeah. It's not important to me anymore. But I actually don't know if I'd even like that. Well, I don't want to put that. Okay, I have to see universe. I am okay being big. I mean, technically, I'm on the cover of like a magazine right now. Like everybody's seeing my face every single day. Universe, I want to receive. I'm allowing space, energy to receive. Yes. Good with a magazine if that's where you want to put me. But yeah, I think the one selfish thing, I'm sure there's many selfish things about me. I'm human. But one thing is, so I've been studying, I don't know what people feel about this. I don't know what I feel about it, but I've been studying like these theories on souls, on like what happens in the afterlife. And allegedly, if you play your cards right, you get to the really good place if there is an afterlife. And if you're like compassionate and you do all these like really beautiful things, you get to the good place later. Well, I'm like, well, I just want to beat the game. Like I've always played video games, right? And so like, if I could just push myself to be super compassionate, even to the point where I'm uncomfortable, but I'm growing. And if that's all going to lead to me getting to the good place later, if there is something later, dope. So I'd say that part's selfish. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, I don't think there's really, I think we have to end on this note. I think this is a moment in time where that stands alone. Like I feel like I'm gonna go back and I hope others go back and like that was a very powerful moment. With that being said, where can people find you online, Espree?
Oh, sure. I'm at Espree Devora on all social. Check out the Women in Tech podcast, womentech.fm, WeAreLATech podcast, WeAreLATech.fm. And just remember, we're all big.